laws of attraction and 7 principles of giving in today's session. Now, if you know my sessions at all, you know, I love motivational sessions. I love to come to places where we get pumped up. I love to come have somebody take a word and decipher that word down to some inherent meaning for me. But if we don't go home and do anything about it, what a waste of time. What a waste of effort. So get your notes out. As you know in my sessions, especially with new beginnings, we're going to talk about points along the way, but we're also going to talk about the things we need to do. You know, one of the things we can talk about is knowing what's right to do. Another thing is doing it. Right? The seminars, we used to challenge people to write down when we talk about the difference between transformational change and Kaizen. You know, Kaizen, it was up on the board. You saw it on the notes up here. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Right? We're always looking for the transformational change. As Jerry pointed out very articulately today, and I concur completely with what he said about Obama and the metaphor, the symbol of what that is. We think that that all happened in a couple of years, that was a transformational change in the United States. I would tend to disagree with that. He didn't say so, but we look at it like that as a society. In actual fact, that had to do with tens of thousands of people sitting on the front of the bus when they weren't supposed to, tens of thousands of people marching and marching, thousands of people going to jail. And it happened over decades and decades and decades, and that happens to just be the end product of it. We saw, he mentioned Bruce Lipton. We promised that we wouldn't steal Bruce Lipton's talk, but I'm going to steal 2 points from it. Right? One of the things that Bruce showed was a beaker. Right? And in this beaker we have the multiplication of bacteria. You know, 1 divides and we get 2, 2 divides and we get 4, 4 divide to 8. And he timed this with a clock. Right? And we could watch this beaker going down, this line going down on this beaker, and for 59 minutes the line moved so small that you couldn't even perceive the movement, and in the last minute the entire thing dropped because of the exponential growth. And haven't we heard about that message here this morning? Watch, we think that the last minute is transformational change. What we fail to recognize is the 59 minutes, the effort, the quiet work of people like my father, who for 40 years is a chiropractor, when they were calling them quacks, when they were putting them in jail, silently, quietly, without any fanfare, without ever having his name be put in a book, went to work every day and saw his 50 to 75 patients that day, educating them and empowering them. All right, so we want to talk about that today in this process. So, you know, we challenge people. You know, Kaizen says, think of the next easiest thing you can do to make a difference in your life. And we would challenge people to come up in an exercise with the next easiest business thing they could do on Monday morning. The next easiest thing they could do in their health. The next easiest thing they could do in a relationship. You know, in Kaizen says, if you have 30 pounds to lose, you don't think about losing it all in 3 weeks. Right? Because people that do that, and it's possible, generally UCLA found in their studies gain all the weight back in a relatively short period of time. Kaizen says that the first step is to go to the table, break, and go to the front desk and take the minibar key and turn the minibar key back in. Because if you can't turn the minibar key back in, chances are you're not going to lose 30 pounds. Everyone with me on this? Watch, how many times, if I were to ask you right now, what could you do, the next simplest thing you could do when you leave here that would alter your relationship? Not transform it, but alter it in a Kaizen way. And one of the things I would suggest to you is tonight when you get home, on the way home, just stop at one of those street vendors or walk into a 7-Eleven and pick up 1 rose. You don't have to get a dozen. You don't need 2 dozen. Pick up a single rose, and when you get home, just walk in. You don't have to say a word. Just lay it down in front of the person. I promise you your evening will be better. Right? You don't have to clean up all the ills of 40 years of lack of communication. Lay the flower down. It's the next easiest step. And yet, you know what? Some of you right now are going, ooh, that's a pretty darn good idea. And so you know what? Some of you are even saying, I'm going to do that tonight. And on the way home, you'll be driving home at the end of the presentation tomorrow afternoon. And you'll see the 7-Eleven, and you remember the discussion, and you know you just have to cross 1 lane of traffic, pull in there and stop and get it. And you'll be thinking about it as you drive on by, And you'll just drive home and nothing will happen. Well, you got to do it, right? So we're going to talk about getting the rows, but I'm going to suggest to you that we got to go home and get the rows and make it happen. Does that make sense? So take your notes out because we're going to go through some stuff today. I have a great friend in New Zealand by the name of Les Whitehead. He just finished his 44th year in practice. Peter and Patty, you got to meet him in New Zealand this year when we were down there. Les Whitehead, I went over for his 40th celebration chiropractic. Les Whitehead, about my size, Maori Indian, native to New Zealand islands. Les Whitehead is a person that has lasting purpose in life. On his 40th anniversary, the entire islands of New Zealand, the chiropractors, staff, people that knew him, got together to celebrate Les Whitehead. The day before his 40th celebration, Les Whitehead saw 180 patients in practice. And I heard a person mumble under their breath one time, boy, he must have really invested for it. Because why would you want to be working that hard 40 years into your career? Let me tell you what, Les Whitehead is one of the richest chiropractors I know in the world. And if you ask him, he doesn't know. And it's sincere. If you know anything about Les Whitehead, he's the biggest heart person I've ever met in my lifetime. He has no idea how much money he has. His family manages it for him. He just loves to take care of patients. I saw him this year. I went over, and Les, we thought he probably wouldn't make it to the seminar, because I got there on Wednesday. His practice had burned down the previous Saturday. Everything was lost. Everything. All the tables. His x-ray units, which I'll come back to in a moment. He's a Gonstead practitioner and accurate to the nth degree with that technique. His records were destroyed. And he's in a little town called Palmerston North. And so we decided we'd make a 3-hour drive through New Zealand to get to Palmerston North. It's not easy to get there, to see if we could shore up Les Whitehead. And so Brian, the president of New Zealand College, and I got in the car and we headed out one evening to have dinner with him. And we got there, and Les was so excited that we were there. And he took us down to see his burnt out clinic. Here's what had happened. The clinic burned down on a Wednesday, on a Friday, on Saturday. On Sunday, without being asked, some patients who were real estate agents went out and found him a place on Sunday so we could open up on Monday morning. The community got together with the staff and figured out, they made calls to chiropractors all over New Zealand to see who had extra adjusting tables. And they got in cars and drove all over New Zealand to get adjusting tables and get an x-ray unit set up. A group of people from the community came in and called everyone, over 2,000 people in that community, to let them know where Dr. Whitehead would be opening up on Monday morning. And while we were standing there with Les looking at his burned out clinic, as he was telling us how excited he was to finally be able to get the clinic he's always wanted to build for the last 10 years, and this gave him the freedom to do it, a little boy from the community came by with a $5 bill to give to Dr. Les to help him rebuild his clinic. In that moment, I saw the difference between success, which he certainly has, and significance. Because Les happens to have both of those things, success and significance, doesn't he? Les Whitehead, when I met him in 1977, had just purchased, the first chiropractor ever knew to do this, a cinerectinography unit, so he could take motion x-rays of the human spine. It cost him $100,000. In today's dollars, that'd be somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000. Now, no one would do that unless they're going to put on a seminar and find a way of making money out from it. Les Whitehead had no consciousness, no idea about any inkling that he ever even wanted to put on a seminar, much less get up and speak or put a program together. You know why he did it? He told us straight out in 1977 on an airfield in New Zealand at Palmerston North, where we're getting ready to board a 4-passenger plane, Dr. Felicia and I, to get out of there. You know what he said? I just wanted to provide better care to my patients.